Hello, everyone. My name is Jenny and I'm an astrologer and an energy healer. I work with the energy of Archangel Metatron and other ascended masters and the council to bring forward these messages. And today we're going to talk a little bit more about the video that I did called The End of Corruption in reference to the United States Pluto return that we have coming up quickly. I also wanted to mention, because people ask in the comments and ask in emails, my website is listed in the description box. And if you're interested in booking a session, I am booking now in the beginning of January. But you will still have the sale price that goes on through November if you book now for that. Also, coming up on November 11th at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, I'm going to have the first ever meeting of it. Is the original group is called the Sisterhood of the Emerald Fire. The Marys wanted me to make this open to everyone, and so they nudged me a little bit into calling it the Congregation of the Emerald Fire. We're going to have that meeting on Zoom, so online by video. The link is in the description box below if you would like to join. We send energy, healing energy throughout the planet, connecting the grids and different placements of crop circles, sacred geometry, and vortexes of energy as directed by the Ascended Masters or the Holy Spirit, in order to help the earth as she gives birth to the balance of the divine feminine and all of the earth changes that we have coming in answer to balance out what has been happening with climate change. The earth is now pushing back and responding. So we have a lot of those changes coming up. I've talked about that a lot in videos throughout the year, but we're going to address it again today. So I'm going to take my glasses off because of the glare. So today we're talking about the End of Corruption video, because a lot of people are emailing me. People are fearful. People that voted for the current president are, questioning themselves. I want to say, first of all, that one of my very best friend voted for the president that we have now. And we've managed to maintain a friendship. We did not talk about it very much. But I don't judge anyone who did that. I don't hate the man. I had people telling me in comments that I was misguided because I said that I had compassion for him. I believe that when you decide that you're going to live in a higher consciousness and follow the teachings of Christ, that you love everyone. And I think that it would be a little bit hypocritical if I hated people who acted in ways that I would not choose to act simply because they did that. I believe that if you say that you are walking and living a life and being a beacon of unconditional love for everybody, for all of us, that if we've chosen to do that, that's when we stop hating people. You can't have hatred in your heart and be in resonance with the Creator, with God, or all that is, or connect to all that is through the energy of unconditional love if you carry hatred in your heart. And so I choose not to carry hatred in my heart. And I want to talk, we're going to just address some of the things that have been coming up. I wanted to reiterate, as I said before, that when I'm talking about the system coming to an end and the corruption that we have in our system, I don't think that anybody, regardless of your political persuasion, would say that we don't have a corrupt system. Obviously, we have a corrupt system. I don't think that's really up for debate. I don't blame either party. I think that they all share the responsibility. And I used to be very political and very involved in all of this. And I turned away from that years ago. I really don't keep up with what's happening except to, I do like to know, like in cases of children, say, being taken from their parents. And then, when there are laws repealed regarding the environment, I try to keep up on things like that. I don't get into the silliness. People said, one woman thought that I was saying, in regard to what happened with the Supreme Court and the fight that will be coming in relation to his appointment, that it doesn't matter, that I was saying that doesn't matter, that fight doesn't matter. That's not true. That's not what I said. What I'm saying is focusing all of our hatred on a man named Brett instead of like seeing things from the big picture. Okay, we knew this fight was going to come. It was just a matter of time. And we all know that, and I think that my family members who are evangelicals would agree that the holding the nose and pulling the lever for the current president was because they wanted a Supreme Court justice in there who was going to do their bidding. Okay, that was the deal that they made. And so I never questioned that he would be in. I figured he would get in. You can even see in the astrology that it's being set up for debate. And so when I was saying it doesn't matter, I was saying that, look at the big picture, okay? And not that person, okay? Any person. I'm not focused on any person. I'm talking about the system and both parties and the government as a whole, okay? Not one person and not one issue, okay? I'm just giving you what I'm told to give to help to give insight and information about the coming days, okay? And the coming years that's what we're going to address mainly today. So I think that I'm going to, okay. So we're going to talk about what's coming in the days to come, okay? We're going to do that first. Okay, so what Metatron drew my attention to, first of all, in regard to Saturn meeting up with the Pluto of the United States, and I talked about it in the video, The End of Corruption, okay? So that's all going down in 2020. So he drew my attention to what was going on in the United States in 1977. In 1977, that was when the Pluto met up with Saturn. Now we're having like the other side of that, okay? Or we're warming up to it. We're not there yet, but we're warming up to it. And those are big boys. Those you can feel a Pluto transit start. I mean, obviously it depends on how sensitive you are, but you can feel that start a long time before, you'll read in a book that it's starting. Let's say that. I had things coming up like as far as as masculine roles and all of that when Pluto was like 10 degrees, almost, well, not quite 10 degrees from my Mars, but he was a long way off. It was just actually something that happened that day. But I'm just saying that when we're, talking about Nessus and Orcus return starting and then warming up to that Pluto return, this is what the energy that you're going to feel for a while. So in 1977, we were already 7 years into the energy crisis, okay? Because that started, or I'm sorry, no, we were 4 years. Oh, math. We were 4 years into the energy crisis. It went on for about 7 years, but so we were in the middle of the energy crisis that happened in the late 70s. If you remember, I was young, but I remember the lines of cars waiting to get gas, and then anyway, there were a lot of things that went on at that time. But so I was going to read some of those just to give you an idea, because mainly what got my attention was everything that happened with the weather that year. And this is for the United States, okay? So the snow fell in Miami, Florida that January. And this is January of 77 when Pluto met up with the Saturn of the United States, okay? And Saturn, again, is about authority and honesty and integrity, and Pluto is the transformation, the death, the destruction, to rise from the ashes, the phoenix rising from the ashes. And then that month of January the U.S. average monthly temperature was 12.5 degrees Fahrenheit. It was the coldest month since 1895. 1895 is when we started record. So it was the coldest on record to that date. We've passed that, but to that date, okay? So severe cold, except in Alaska. Alaska had the warmest January that there was. So that reminded me a lot of what happened last year, or this past winter, when the poles were above freezing for like 3 weeks, and it was right in that window when there was snow in Rome. Like north, I know that there was snow in the United Kingdom, like places that didn't normally have blizzards or have snowfall. They had snowfall, and then the Arctic was above freezing for 3 weeks. I don't remember that they happened exactly at the same time, but it was right in that, like about a 6-week period is what I'm thinking, that when that was happening, which is what they were talking about in Amanda Ellis's video. So before I started making YouTube videos, Amanda Ellis had made a video, I believe it was last December. I think she called it Earth Changes. And so what they described was that the poles will melt in order for there to be an influx of fresh water to pure. I don't remember that all of this was said during her recording, but parts of it were said in that recording. So the poles will melt in order to bring fresh water into the oceans. And they also spoke to the fact that humans have had, as a race, we've had centuries, is what they're saying, to address climate change and to curb our energy use, and it hasn't happened. And now, in order for the earth which the earth continues, obviously, but for humanity to be able to live here, there needs to be a correction made, because we've come to the line now, okay? And so they spoke about the poles tilting. Now, I talked in videos earlier throughout the year. I've talked about, and I would tell you which ones they were if I had time to go back and watch them all, but I don't have time to go back and watch them all. But at pretty much every moon event, at least once a month, let's say, Metatron showed me different image. I've always had visions since I was a little kid, and he showed me, different visions of things that would play out on the planet. He did show me the Earth wobble. He showed me the Earth cracking open like a seed. There were some where there was just cloud cover, and a lot of it wasn't just forest fire. It looked like dust clouds, okay? And I couldn't see like the entire earth. In fact, I couldn't even tell you where on the earth I was looking, because it was all covered from where I was looking. But it was not the entire earth, okay? So, and when we're talking about all of this, he also brought my attention to the story of Noah, which is a story, and it's a story about God's protection and how he, the story is told about a righteous man, okay, and about how he and his family were kept safe during devastation, during flooding, during the apocalyptic end of the world scenario, that God protected his family, okay, and the rainbow signature that was made in the sky as a promise that mankind wouldn't be wiped away from the planet again. That's a story, okay? And that story is to reassure all of us that we will be kept safe in events such as natural disasters if you ask for protection. And obviously, if, it's in your soul's choice always if we stay or we go. But free will has a lot to do with that too. And just asking for protection and saying, I'd like to stay here. I'd like to be here to help. You don't need to worry then about the financial collapse or, the earth, all of these earth changes devastating you. That's a story and a promise of safety, that God would provide safety. Okay. That's what the story was about. And so that's something that we can feel reassured about, that we understand that we can have protection and that we can be safe for that. when these things occur, when these climate change events do occur. Because, at the end of the video about the end of corruption, the female energy on the council who calls herself Tina with me, she said the storms are coming and there will be many and they will be fierce. Okay. So this also, that in 77 in July, 75 people died in Pennsylvania as a result of flooding. Interesting that the Department of Energy was created that year too. And then a dam failed in Georgia. A lot of people were lost, and there was a dust storm that hit the San Joaquin Valley. It caused a lot of, $40 million in damage in the 70s. That's a lot. 3 people did die. And then we had the coldest winter for 49 years in the Ohio Valley region, and a record dry year throughout the West, especially the Pacific Northwest, that created heating fuel and water source shortages, plus extended freezing of the Great Lakes and freezing of the Mississippi River as far south as Cairo, Illinois. Okay, so there were a lot of climate events that happened then as well. And we did start that energy department. I don't know how much, the EPA has to say about anything anymore, or what a difference it might be making at this point. It's been so weakened. But the point is that this was going to happen anyway. This was going to happen because of years of neglect and years of taking advantage of Mother Earth. At some point, she responds, right? And she needs to balance herself out. And so we have a lot of climate change events coming. Now, the world isn't never going to end. That's not happening. The reason that the poles are tilting and not shifting is because the humanity is going to continue, okay? We're the great experiment of the light, and we're never going to be just left here on our own to perish, okay? A lot of these energies that you're feeling right now and what's happening with the planets, he's said, is people remembering what's gone on before in the past when the energies were like that. A little bit different, not quite the lineup that we have now exactly with the planets, but you remember that, okay? Your energy remembers that. Just like when people who have no idea about their natal chart, when, specific days of the month, or every however many days, the moon hits something in their natal chart and they go through a couple days where they're feeling kind of crappy. And that's because you know the energies of the planets, even if you're not intellectually in touch with it, you energetically are in touch with it. So a lot of us are feeling, and I think that a lot of people I keep, making jokes about my Jupiter return because I've gained weight, but a lot of people have gained weight this year. And that's because of that Jupiter-Neptune trine that we had going on. But I think that it also is because it makes us feel safe. Okay. And we're going to talk a lot more about that next month as the North Node shifts into Cancer. And then really all of our insecurities start. Fun. It's going to be great. It's going to be so much fun. There'll be a new topic about insecurity. So yeah, I mean, we all feel what's coming. Everybody's, and I think a lot of people are kind of drawing their own conclusions and creating these disaster scenarios. Or on the other side of that is that built into our DNA, we believe we need a savior. Okay, that's in your DNA. I mean, if you were born here on the planet, chances are that at some point someone in your ancestral line believed that they were in need of a savior. And so people tend to look to the politicians and label them as saviors, and they're really just playing a role, okay, of leadership for whatever reason. We don't ever have the answer to that. I'm just going to say that I love Barack Obama. I voted for Barack Obama. More civilians died under Barack Obama in drone strikes than they did under George W. Bush, and more people were deported under Barack Obama's presidency than George W. Bush's. Okay, that's just a fact. I still love him, and I respect him, and I accept him, and I know that for whatever reason, that's what happened. And no soul leaves the planet without deciding that they're going to. So I don't point fingers at leaders because I've seen enough lifetimes of my own, as I've described, that we each as soul groups go through and play like Julius Caesar, Alexander the Great, Napoleon. It's not one person walking around who was one of those, and you're like, oh, that's Napoleon. I find it a little bit amusing because I know, well, maybe I'm not going to say who it is, but Amanda Ellis and I both know someone who was a figure whose name you would recognize in history. And they both are kind of arrogant. So I think it's kind of funny. People just don't realize. I didn't realize at first. And when I got into like the 12th, 13th person, and they were not all very nice people, believe me. And I was just like, okay, now I don't believe you anymore, because there's no way that I was all of these people. But I have played the role of a leader who was dastardly. I just heard. Dastardly. Not a nice person, okay? And so I don't judge them. Because anytime that we shoot those arrows at other people, they're coming right into your energy. Okay, that's how a lot of us end up with psychic attacks at the end of the day. It's our own stuff that we're sending out to other people. Anyway, so I did pull cards because I wanted to address the fact that, we're going through. He had me look at 2021, which I'll get more into in another day. But he also had me pull, this is the chart for 2033. And this, in 2033, Saturn is going to be coming up to a trine. That's an easy flow of energy, a trine, okay? It's the way that the planets are communicating. There's no interruption, no friction. So he's going to be in a trine to our, or Pluto will be in trine to our natal Saturn. Okay, so we talked about what happened in 1977. He's actually going to be passing the south. This is 2033, okay? Because here's the thing. Okay, so where am I? So what I was talking about in 2020, where the Sun and Mercury are now, is where I was showing you before in the last video how Saturn, Pluto, everybody's going to meet up there on that Pluto, okay? And Jupiter is kind of in that mix too, a little bit further out. But so what's happening then after, imagine where the Sun is now, that'll be where Pluto is and Saturn. Then Pluto is going to continue up to where he is there. Do you see him in Aquarius on the outside of the circle? He'll have just passed the south node. Jupiter will be on our south node. He's got a lot of things to visit. And Pluto too, for those of you who don't know, Pluto's only moving 3 degrees this year. Okay, he doesn't go very quickly. He gets to a point and he goes, and he just sits there. And he goes over it, and he goes over it, and he goes over it. And so he's going to be going over it and over and over it, meaning our Pluto, okay? And that's still happening in that 2021. He's like edging up. He's getting up very close to it in 2021. 2021 looks like it's very intense year. But what's going to happen then when Pluto trines Saturn is that Venus will be on our Sedna. Okay, Sedna is this girl here. All right, and Sedna means a lot of things. Sedna is an asteroid. And if you do sessions with me, we address Sedna. She's the story of the patriarchy. She's also about choice. Okay? So right now, when that person was added to the Supreme Court, Neptune was retrograde on the Sedna of the United States, okay? And now he'll move forward over it. Other things will go by it. But when we're talking about that little movement, when Pluto barely moves, 30 degrees until in that 13 years, a lot of things it's going to hit a lot of points in the sky, like the south node. Like once it's done with going like this over the Pluto of the United States, it's going to move on to be conjunct the South Node. And then that's going to go on for a while too. So he didn't get, I don't know why we went to 2033. I don't really know. He didn't give me specifics about what's happening that year, but he brought it to my attention that would be, he's saying noteworthy, when those energies trine again, or when they have another conversation, an in-depth conversation, okay? Because they did when they conjunct in 77, and then they'll be speaking again in a trine, and that'll be after Pluto passes the South Node, but Jupiter, which magnifies things. And Jupiter can be, it's given the term of a benefic, but Jupiter is very serious stuff. Like a lot of things have happened with me personally when Jupiter and Pluto were in opposition a while back. That can be a pretty serious thing when Jupiter is involved, especially when you're talking about Jupiter on the South Node. And this is 2033 again. And at the same time that Jupiter in the sky is on the South Node, or the past of the United States, or the baggage, the South Node, the Saturn in the sky is coming up to our Jupiter-Venus conjunction, and Venus, so the feminine, okay? The feminine Venus in the sky is coming up to Sedna choice. And then there's something happening with the Saturn. We don't know who's going to be president, obviously. But there's something happening too in 2033 with that as well, for surely. So anyway, we're going to go through the cards because I wanted him to have a say with, the people that have been emailing me and commenting about what exactly to do now. So I pulled Alberto Villaldo, Colette Baron-Reed, and Marcela Lobos deck, the Mystical Shaman Oracle. Okay, so here we have the staff. The staff is the symbol of authority. It holds the power to temper extremes. The staff helps you find the right course of action, the way of the middle. You are caught in the delicate balance between opposing forces, between masculine and feminine, between action and non-action. Use this to your advantage, as there can be no day without night, no low without high, no right without wrong. Okay, so this is about when you're witnessing these events, okay, and the things that are going to go on, taking like a step back and looking at it from the bigger picture perspective, okay? Because I believe her when she said that it's going to get darker, things are going to get darker, and there'll be some very dark days, that we really, in order to keep hope and faith alive, it's really taking the higher perspective. And what he's saying right now is that the energies right now are like jet fuel, to take it off, to point your arrow and go somewhere, okay? And that's an important thing to remember. And so we're also seeing the staff as like the walking staff, okay, guiding you on your path. And then once you decide on a direction, to maintain going in that direction, okay? And then the next card, the standstill. When standstill appears, it is a symbol of pausing, the act of observation and breathing space. It represents the benefits of temporary non-action, as well as what happens when one is stuck. Time when things seem to stall or stagnate, or when you feel stuck, this symbol appears as a reminder that constant action isn't going to get you where you want to go. Perhaps it's time to gather more information, or just wait until the universe makes the next move. No matter what, this moment is a beautiful gift orchestrated in your favor. Enjoy it. Let the universe bring all the parts together for the highest good. Go and play, recharge, and take the focus off whatever has stalled. Life will get busy again for you sooner than you think. So yeah, I think that this is a time really when he kept saying all year that this is when we're fortifying our energy. We're getting ready. Like, what did she say at the end of the video? Like, to, just keep peace around you and surround you, and really spend time building up your vibration, walking in the woods if it's at all possible. I was really cold today, but I went for like an hour because I love it there so much. And if you can do anything like that, taking a walk, even if you just walk around the mall, anything that you can do, listening to, I don't know, YouTube videos or podcasts that are uplifting, anything that you can do to raise your vibration and to steel yourself, and take some time for yourself is really important right now. And then next we have the sun. The sun. I remember last spring when I was walking out of a store and the sun, it was such a beautiful evening. It was so cold, and it was a time of year when it really shouldn't have been that cold. And I was thinking like how beautiful it was and how freezing cold it was. And Metatron said, no matter how cold it gets, the sun will always shine. And he always compares himself to the sun with me. So I think that that's part of what that card is about. The sun is acknowledged by many cultures as the foremost masculine force. In other traditions, it is seen as the feminine in her full power. Either way, it is the most brilliant light for all beings and allows life to sprout from the dark feminine earth. It can be gentle and warming close to sunrise or sunset, fall or winter, or it can be destructive, as in its zenith during a scorching summer. Have you been shining your light for too long? Remember that daylight is only one half of the day. The night must have her equal time, and she offers us her gifts as well. Be careful not to be blinded by your light or the lights of others. Do not become enamored with yourself or worship others. Beware your shadow. Revel in your midday glory, but do not be afraid of the waning of the light at dusk. So I think that this is, again, speaking to looking to other people, or he's saying anywhere outside yourself as a source of light. Start thinking of yourself as the source of light, and, just trusting that whatever plays out and whoever gets elected, like the next election that I talked about, whoever it is, that they're there for a reason, and always to, see the bigger picture and what's happening, and not to be dazzled by anybody who comes along and promises you yada, yada, yada. The fact is that they cannot pay for their elections unless they take money from lobbyists. That's the truth. I don't care who it is. Okay, that's the truth. That's the way the system is set up. And then next we have Luminous Warrior. The Luminous Warrior has no enemies in this world or the next. He is impeccable in word and deed. He focuses on his light rather than on what hides in the dark. Since he casts no shadow, he is as radiant as the sun and can transform his most terrible enemy into his ally. His power comes not from the sword, but from speaking the truth at all costs. Are you being tempted by your emotions to follow your lower instincts? Are you being invited to enter into a quarrel with someone? Put your sword away. This is not the time for battle. Your enemy is not who you think it is. Do not act from a place of anger that will damage your relationship and hurt the ones you care for. Find the truth hiding in your heart that will affirm your instinct for peace rather than for war. Okay? So, again, just, holding our space, holding the light, holding the higher vibration of love and peace and harmony, and coexisting with other people, even though they don't agree with our politics or their ideas of how to fix things are different from ours, and just stepping out of it, just not engaging at all. Most likely you're not going to persuade the person that you're talking to come around to your side, okay? Because people are pretty fixed with that. I try to stay neutral. I just am more about fairness and justice and, children being protected and the planet being protected, the precious gift that we were given of this earth. And I want it to be restored and healed. And I mean, when we're talking about the flood, and Noah's Ark and the story that we're protected when we ask for it, that the righteous will be protected, and his family was too. And when everything else around him was gone, they were still there and they were kept safe from harm. So if you like to ask for help and protection, that's another thing. When I do the meeting of the congregation of the Emerald Fire on Zoom, we will place sacred geometry under each of our houses, and then strategically around the planet, like wherever they have me go with that. But I don't know if there's anything else that I was going to address. Nothing else. So, okay, guys, I just wanted to clarify a few things and just let you know that when that date comes, I'm not saying, Kingdom Come is here and we're done. But it's a process of things are going to keep unfolding until the system is and the corruption is brought to an end, and then we rebuild from there. And that's what the